Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
What do you want to play for us?
I'm going to play the Debussy Sonata.
Good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So maybe a few elements of context with this Debussy sonata. You know when it was composed?
Yeah.
During the First World War. And this is really a late work by Debussy. This is the end of his life. So I think it's interesting to put it in his personal context, his own life. This is one of the last works he composed after a quite long time, more than 1 year, without composing because he was very depressed, because he was ill himself, and also because, of course, because of the war and the tragedy, and probably felt that music was not the priority at that moment. And after that moment, that long moment of personal difficulty, come these 3 sonatas. There was supposed to be 6, only 3 came, but that's already wonderful. For us, cellists, we have this Debussy sonata, which is probably one of the greatest works of our repertoire, I would say. We were not always lucky that the great composers write for cello. There we are. But I would also speak about, or try to connect it to the general context of music at the time. It is such a moment when you think in these years, just 2 years before that sonata, it is the Sacre du Printemps, right, of Stravinsky. You have the Kodály sonata, basically the same time, so Kodály cello sonata, solo. You have Webern, who is doing interesting things also with the strings. You have Schoenberg, Pierrot Lunaire. That would be something we can speak about when we speak of serenade. The second movement being a serenade. Yeah. And there is another serenade with Pierrot in the Pierrot Lunaire by Schoenberg. Different, but some connection. Why do I speak about that? Because for us cellists, it's really a new way to approach the instrument. You play the cello. Are you actually playing the cello when you play that sonata? You know, we can wonder sometimes. You play the guitar. You play the flute. You play sometimes more percussive sound. You play all sorts of different sounds. Soft, not so soft. He writes a lot of dolce, but some are. When he writes ironic, for instance, ironical is very specific about different colors that you are well aware of, and I can tell you are already very well trying and achieving many of the colors of that sonata. But maybe some we can work on having them a bit more precise and more specific with the difficulty that so much happens in such a short time. Yeah. This sonata is 12 minutes or whatever.
Sure.
If you compare to the late romantic or post-romantic works, which are developing long, there is not less content in this music. In many regards, more actually, except in a short time. I remember my first cello teacher was Jean de Place, who was a student of Maurice Maréchal, and Maurice Maréchal was the legendary interpreter of that sonata. There's, by the way, a wonderful recording that I always advise my young colleagues to listen to, because Maréchal knew Debussy, and apparently Debussy liked the way he played it. So it's extremely precious. And I remember him saying things like, for instance, when you play this phrase, it is like a long phrase by a man who is short of breath. You see? So he cannot actually sing a long phrase anymore because he cannot breathe so well, but you have to think it as a long phrase, you see? And that was one of the touching, I think, interpretation of Maréchal of this sonata. We will talk about others in the process. So we have 3 movements which are incredibly contrasted. The first one, what would you say about the first one, main aspect?
I don't know how to say it, but really powerful in a way.
Very powerful, that's one aspect, I agree, especially the beginning. And it's almost like an overture, right? It has the character of an overture, almost connecting to ancient music, I would think. Right? Paradara, right? The dotted rhythm, and the déclamé, as you say, right? Absolutely. And then what we could call the second theme as a counterpart, what would you say about that? That one.
something really interior.
Yes, absolutely. And very plant, like a complaint, right?
Yeah.
Huh? Okay, that's already maybe good enough to begin with. We have a lot of darkness. This is also the key that tells us that about the sound. You know, I'm always careful with the stereotypes that we often hear about the French sound. In Debussy, it doesn't work so well. We know that he liked the sound in the piano to be with a lot of weight in the keys and so on. There are a lot of people who spoke about the way he was playing and what he was looking for. We have that in the chi, chi, pa, 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 some depth and some weight in every note. And even there, I find sometimes your sound a little bit light, not necessarily in terms of soft quantity of sound, but you see in terms of intensity. And that, we're not going to talk too much about bow and technique of the cello, but I just have to tell you that often you divide the bow in such a way that you have acceleration of the bow. Try to be more, feel more the unity of your arm when you play.
Okay.
Because you do a lot of that kind of. There is sostenuto in there. Right? Can we do the beginning also with that idea? You can sustain the sound more, right? Directly. Yes. And feel the long phrase. Not overly slow. That's another thing. Often slow passages, I think, are just simply too slow.
Okay.
In general, the same at the end of the first movement, or also in the third movement. The slow applies to the quarter note, not to the eighth note, and you play a bit. If you feel the quarter note, it's different. It's in 4, not in 8, right? Directly. Try to sustain. Yes. Watch this kind of acceleration. Look at what happens here. Look at what happens in your arm when you play. You see that kind of accent in your arm. Ta-da-da-dee-da, more continuous. Yes! No, you see what I mean? I'm not going to bother you with that now, but be aware of that, because when you don't do it, the sound is much better. Otherwise, we have this funny separation. Connect bows in a more continuous way. Come here. You see, one motion. Yes. 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 And whenever you have string changes, remember that strings are not so far away from each other. It's a bit too much. More legato. Just triple. Yes. Yeah, it's a bit stiff in the wrist. Yes, and try to be somewhat more logical in the ritanuto. Ti ta 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 ti, not ta da 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 ta ti. Right? Good. That's where we go. Huh?